and under the rule of discovery and bill of particulars, I want mine. And I want to be able to take it to my counsel so that, we can discuss this and so I can create a defense. So the whole point, just that approach creates an injunction, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And so the point of it, if they don't produce discovery, now you have a right to tell the judge to dismiss this, and that their claim was frivolous. Now you want to sue them for having brought you to court or misused the court. And if we would do this more often, but it's easier for us to do this if we're in organized order, and that's what Great Seal National Association was set up for. Unfortunately, people who've been presenting it with getting benefits for individuals as instead of documents and the structure coming from their dues that's accounted for. And then when you go to court, then the body goes with you. That is the political power.
Remember I was talking about that?
Yeah.
You go in there by yourself. You can't.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the whole point. But your argument is that of national. But then again, the whole point is if you understand, you had already put in a writ of mandamus, or a writ of removal because they have no jurisdiction in the matter. But you don't argue that they don't have jurisdiction. See, this is the issue. You don't argue that they don't have jurisdiction. That's not the process. Your documents set the order that they don't have jurisdiction.
Right.
And you don't argue motions, you argue affidavits of fact.
That's right.
Now dealing whenever there's a tort or violation of an unalienable right, the lower courts have no jurisdiction anyway. Because then it comes under Article 3, Section 1 and 2. So your argument would always be from a minister and consul position. However, if you're not in associated order with your nation, i.e. along that line, then you can't argue that position. Absolutely. And it's just elementary in why Noble Drawley say enforce the Constitution of the United States of America. So that means to enforce it, you got to study it.
That's right.
And then he says, take your places amongst affairs of men. How are you going to take your places amongst affairs of men if you don't know national and international interchange, i.e. law?
That's right.
Jurisprudence, and which is the science that treats of positive law and law subordinate to that. All right. So if we don't, as a body, even though the people are tempted, because they have problems, people keep on trying to get, you deal with these symptoms of these problems, but they don't want to take the time to study to understand that they must know the nature of where these problems emanated from.
Yeah.
And then they start throwing out these instruments, and logically you get a response. You're not going to sit there, I come in here, you sleep, and I go, you're going to get a response. It may not be what you want. You might, hey, how do I get up over here? and if you really pay attention to us, people keep throwing these documents and then get surprised when the state orders or the corporate entities respond not comfortable with them. Then they want to find some class to go to figure out what they just sent to hell.
Right, exactly. Trying to fix that mess they done going to create it for themselves. And then
they'll start saying, "Oh, these don't work," or "this is wrong," and the real deal is they sent something out that they weren't really spiritually a part of.
That's right.
That's why you got to study etymology.
They're not looking at it that way.
Yeah.
They're looking, I paid $1,500 for these. This should work. This is UCC. I bought my sovereignty. They ain't recognizing my sovereignty that I bought from them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're thinking that way indicates they don't understand birthright.
Exactly.
But the nature of the underpinning of the documents deals with nationality and birthright. And this is why I was saying earlier, what is nationality?
That's right.
If you don't know the component parts in both its spiritual and political interchange activity, which is what comprises nationality in your relationship of belonging to a nation, then, and you say nationality and you start operating, going out into the world, you need to be made aware by someone who does know, because the European is not going to tell you that nationality, you're nationalized once you're conscious of who you are. But saying who you are and being who you are are two different things.
Right.
Understand this. As brothers, we can make mistakes with each other, and we can forgive. Sometimes we pull each other's coattails, sometimes we let it pass and continue the conversation. But in the real world, when you make a mistake, your guard was down, you just got punched. You in here boxing? Yeah, man, because I was boxing like this, me, brother, weaving. And he hit me. I think the ref hit me. No, the guy double jabbed you.
Hello. Exactly. Hello.
And this is what we do. If you really pay attention, this is what we really do when a lot of people send out these documents. They keep looking, thinking that failure. Man, I went through all this, man, and everything. Then you tell them, well, go to the temple. I ain't going to the temple because they this and they that. They don't do this and that. You need to know that that's still your organization.
Right.
You're not willing to deal with fixing your own, but you want to fix these documents to fix the European who's in possession of your birthright. That's a conflict of interest and a conflict of law. If you didn't know it, he does. He ain't going to tell you, so I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And so the deal of it is, what happens is, and and this is the whole point that I'm making, people go out in the movement and they get frustrated with the wrongs or the disorders that are amongst us. Rather than work to fix them and work for unity, they want to ignore their political body or even do things to help fix it. You understand? It don't mean that you're going to stay in some temple where they're all disrupted, but you don't deny the temple is still your institution.
Exactly.
Right.
I had to learn that the hard way.
And you want to study it because you want to know what you're up against. If you got to keep asking questions, you're not ready to go out there and start no fights. You must be adept in your own house before you start going out there trying to clean up somebody else's house.
Exactly.
Come over and stand on one fence. You fence up here. Yeah, look at Jelani's yard. Wait a minute, let me get on this. Shit all over the place. Squish. Oh, damn it. I'm in my yard.
Exactly.
Clean up nothing. And this is what we're doing. Our house is in disorder, and we trying to tell the European to legally and lawfully get in order and treat us right, and we are in total disorder.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, he has obligatory contract and covenant with our mothers and fathers, and we are the heirs and inheritors, and we trying to be something else. Left-hand gold feather Moors.
Yeah.
He ain't made no contract with them. And if you pay attention to a lot of Moors, they busy trying to find quote-unquote European-made Indian names to be that of the Moors, just so they don't just be Moors.
Yeah.
And then trying to hold them to some kind of obligation. Europeans laughing because they know they don't understand, and he's safe. This is what Senator Barry was talking about in 1834, before the House of Representatives, delegates in Virginia.
Exactly.
And as long as they can keep us from the light, they're safe.
That's right. It's almost completely closed.
You understand what I'm saying? And then Noble Drawley came, opened up the way, and rather than, because they don't want to give him credit for the great work he did, and they don't want to acknowledge that he's a prophet, they keep on trying to get around that.
Yeah.
He never said worship him. He said listen to the word.
That's it.
Carry out what I said. Gave you what you need to save yourselves. Now go out and redeem your people. And what happened, people get this wisdom, right? And then they start following up the pattern of the church. They see the opportunity to be important to their people rather than try to raise their people. So they start making positions for themselves, self-assigned titles, and and then start raping their people, and then to the people, figuring them out, then they start new clubs. And before you know, they divide against each other just the way the Europeans set it up. Which caused our fall in the first place, that divisionism. What? Not trying to get the benefit of the nation without being aligned to the nation. And that's what our problem is,
Right.
politically.
Taj, the Northwest Territories, is it treaty or act? Are you familiar with it? No, you are.
Yeah, you're talking about the Northwest Territories.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that support the fact that the 13th Amendment should have never been put in place?
Of course. And if you study the Dred Scott case in its essence, just like people talk about the Dred Scott case, if you really pay attention to the Dred Scott case, what most people should pay attention to, even though there's a lot to study in detail of law and process and status, because the issue, the nature of the Dred Scott case is not prejudice, as a lot of scholars argue, it is status. And the other issue is they should look at the docket, cover the docket which says plaintiff in error, as opposed to looking in the content, not that they shouldn't study the content, and it's talking about Judge Taney and the rest of them, etc. And the real deal is, his name ain't Scott. Coming in the first place, trying to talk about freedom, still claiming to be a European. Because the sovereign power that upon which a man is free and to be able to own property, that he must be in proper self.
Right.
If not, he's in civil liber mortis, which is really the political status that our people are in the absence of what they call civil rights, where the so-called civil rights leaders keep on leading our people on the civil rights arguments without telling them that their status is civil liber mortis, and the opposite of that is in full life. And for them to have standing at law in the universal principle of jurisprudence is that they must be themselves to even make the argument.
Right.
Right.
And that is
Which is appropriate for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why Noble Draw said, be yourself. Before you can have all the knowledge, and for you to even make the legal argument, you must be in propria persona. For you to even make the argument, having the knowledge is not good enough, because the status is the capacity to operate. And you can't be a minority.
That's why you see in the mock courts, that's what you see. I don't leave status.
Yeah.
Various jurisdictions, but I know where I stand.
You stand strong.
And no matter what they say, this is why Noble Drawley says, no matter what they say, you declare who you are. And no matter what they write, you write your name.
Right.
But again, and when you look at this over and over again, and this is why even over the years, even though a lot of people would get frustrated with me, I would stay on those principles. And people would try to, get you to just talk about a whole bunch of other things and keep adding a whole bunch of other things, and you recognize that none of that stuff will work if they don't fix this foundation.
Man, exactly.
And this is the reason why over the years I've stayed true and never changed my position on status, jurisdiction, venue, adjudication principles, nationality for what it is, not what they're assuming it to be, fundamental understanding of the language that you're using, and whenever people in Great Seal teach them how to structure writs, what the different writs are for, general process with encouraging them to study more into their process, but generally making sure all the fundamentals in place and then leaving them alone and not trying to make them followers of anything, just tell them the truth and leave them alone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
I mean, your information, I hear you, sometimes it don't click right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's starting to click.
No, it always did click, because you've been battling with this, you understand. Because we all did,
Yeah.
But that's why, I've never, even though people get frustrated, I won't go off of that.
Right.
Because I already know that until that basis of nationality is really understood, and it's like anything, people keep thinking, and this is the problem where it comes with belief. As long as people think that beliefs are right, they will be deceived.
Right.
Because it's elementary.
Right.
So I always focus on fruition of the fundamentals, deliberately, and logically, like anything else. You already know when someone doesn't know the principles. All right, like I'm a contractor, I'm a house doctor. Anything wrong with this house, the juice like this outlet was bad, right? If anything like this, just like this diamond plaster, because I understand the physics of the house, so I can tell the construction principles. Like I can look at that and tell that's lathe, hog hair, brown coat, and diamond plaster. And of course it's dropping away from the lathe, which is why you got those cracks.
Right.
All right, so you understand the construction, right? And so I understand how to fix it because I'm a doctor, right? So you don't sit around with opinion, and you don't argue opinions, and you don't argue opinion with people who don't know the discipline. You don't condemn them, but you try to tell them. But if they're going to argue with you and tell you something else, and this is basically what we've done. So math is math, right?